What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg Miller, and this is our cool friend, Kris Anka. Yay!
Hi there.
Hey! Now, here's the thing, Kris.
What's up?
You're getting greedy, and I like it. I want you to know that. I didn't realize till I was doing the research on you. You know what I mean? Looking back through your search histories and Googles and all these things and your incognito things. This is your third appearance on Kinda Funny.
Yeah.
And it seems like you come around once every fall. You did the Game Over Greggy show, number 201, October 5th, 2017. And then the Comic Book Club, issue 10, November 7th, 2018.
I think you start burning out of guests for these shows. So
End of the year,
that's
we
when I
peter
start
out.
noticing. I'm like, maybe I should hit you up about this.
Yeah. So here you are, and we have cool friends.
Yeah.
Now, again, you've been on a lot of Kinda Funny content. But as you know, we have Cool Friends, a breakout show, bringing in all sorts of new eyes. Some weeks, other weeks, nobody watches it. If somebody doesn't know you, how do you describe yourself?
I draw comics. I drew comics for Marvel for a long time.
Yeah.
And now I kind of don't, a little bit.
That's the thing about you is like, yeah, I don't understand how to. I have
Comics.
a lot of questions about the comic book industry. I feel like you've been on before. You sold me on Captain America. That was fun.
Yeah.
We taught you
It's
were
like
on the
my biggest contribution to Kinda Funny. Is
Exactly.
I got you like Steve Rogers, yeah.
Yeah. When you were on Comic Book Club last time around, we just talked about the comics where that were happening. You gave a little bit of information on Runaways, which is what you're famous for, obviously. Since then, you've left Runaways. I see you draw things on the internet, mostly smut, and then am I wrong?
I mean, it's there. I mean, yeah.
I was just saying it's there, right?
Mostly. I'm like, I think my day job keeps me away from that too much.
Even when Irene was here that one time, like
that's all
Irene,
we
Babs,
wanted.
Irene is
wanted.
the one I asked. I was like, hey, do people get into comics just to draw sex? She's like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's hot. I like that a lot.
Like especially superheroes. Like they're already basically naked, just coloring them a little bit weird.
True, 100%.
Get some nipples in there. Let's go.
So then, what do you do right now? What is it like to be a comic book artist not working on a comic book, I guess, publicly? I assume you're doing something somewhere. You're working on the next big thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's still pretty busy. I mean, I just wrapped up filling in on Runaways for a little bit. I came back for one issue just to sort of help out.
Yeah.
My year's been kind of topsy-turvy.
What does that mean?
Let's go into it.
Yeah, please.
My dad passed away a few months ago.
Oh, I didn't even know.
So it's like my whole summer was just taking care of him.
Okay.
And then that sort of ended. And sort of like I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm doing.
Was that a full stop career-wise for you?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is
Like
what I
that
gotta do?
killed my... I mean, thankfully, I was working on a creator-owned book at Image.
Which one was that?
It's called The White Trees.
I was going to say, toss
I
this
have it
stuff out.
here. I'll give it to Greg.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, wow.
We're talking about later. But at least
Well, yeah, because in the comic book club, people wrote in that they had started reading this, but they didn't do it because of Kris. They didn't say because of Kinda
really?
Funny best friend Kris Anka. They were just like, I've been reading this and it's good.
Well, what was nice about it is it's a very short thing, just 2 issues. That's all.
Oh, wow,
that's all
perfect.
it is. So I think it had this really low like threshold for people who wanted to come pick it up, get into it. They didn't have to like it's not a new series. We tried to pitch someone on Saga.
Yeah.
Like
Oof.
okay, well it's like 70 issues and you got to like jump in.
Yeah.
We wanted something really easy, especially because I came off of 7 years at Marvel. I just wanted something easygoing.
Yeah.
So when I was doing this, everything kind of hard stopped because of my dad.
Was this unexpected with your father?
Oh yeah, he got a really bad back injury, and that just sort of spiraled, and then turned out it was cancer.
Oh my God.
I was actually going to text you about it, but within 2 weeks of getting diagnosed, he just had a heart attack.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah, because he had a blood cancer, and we realized that it caused a blood clot.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even we weren't even at getting the stage of like start to recover.
Yeah.
It just went.
Holy shit, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So like, it weirdly timed out well, where even my career was kind of like at a good pause, and so now I'm kind of getting going of starting everything back up and kind of figuring out what the lay of the land is. So I'm filling in on a few things, just in the time being, and then I'm gonna kind of figure out what I want to do.
Okay.
Because there's a bunch of projects that I want to do, whether those things will time out right now or they're going to hold off or stuff like that. What's nice about having 7 years at Marvel is I can kind of ask them. If I need something to fill in on, I can kind of start that. There's a little bit of a door open at DC with Brian Bendis.
Mr. Bendis.
I figure like no one would know what Brian I'm talking about.
If they are tuning into this one, they might have an idea of which Brian we're talking about at DC.
So like right now it's still comics largely. But I mean it's weird because like I didn't even want to do comics in the beginning.
Yeah.
I went to school for animation.
Okay.
I went to Cal Arts to do character design for cartoons.
Okay.
But when I was leaving, when I graduated college, I worked on Ninja Turtles, which I think you may have known. I worked on the Ninja Turtles CG show at Nickelodeon. I was on there for a year. And then during that time was when Marvel hit me up. And they're like, do you want to just do comics? Because like we can already tell you can tell stories. You already draw Marvel characters all the fucking time.
So wait, how does that happen? How do they find you?
They just found me online. I mean, it's very much like
Your DeviantArt page?
Yeah. So like, there's kind of this weird growing pain in comics going on where everyone from the old generation is so used to like portfolio reviews. You do pages, you do that, you go, and then going into sort of. I think I was kind of one of the first ones to do it, where I just have a long online presence of just drawing Marvel fan art.
Yeah.
And then because I went to school for animation and I made films and all that, they're like, okay, so you can tell stories and he already draws Wolverine. What if you just kind of did both of those for us?
Yeah.
And so when I was at Turtles, I was doing both at the same time. I did like a 10-page short, and then I did this issue. And I was doing 2 jobs at the same time. I was getting like 4 hours of sleep for like 6 months. It was not fun.
Great, awesome.
But when that ended, they were like, do you want to just work for us full time? And that's when I made the jump over into comics. So like comics is one of those things, and I think with you with comics the same. It's something I enjoyed. It's never something I wanted to do. I really like. It means kind of even with video games for me. I'm the one who's like casually looking in of like this is something really fun for me. It's an escape for me.
This is my hobby.
Yeah, but it's not something I wanted to do. So like comics was really kind of tough to drag me into it.
Okay.
It's like I just loved reading it. I was the only person in my entire college who read comics.
Yeah.
We had one other DC guy.
The smart guy.
Yeah, he liked Green Lantern.
Also smart.
I mean, at the time, and then there's a Jeff Johns like Green Lantern.
Oh yeah,
like,
that was
boom.
come on,
Like, it was the time.
Golden
It was
age.
the time, yeah. And then the movie happened.
Yeah.
And that
there's
some
mistakes were made.
But it was like, I mean, this is great. It's honestly my favorite era of comics, at least from my life, because it was
The Jeff Johns stuff.
Well,
right
that read DC because going into the whole Blackest Night.
Yeah.
I loved all that, and then at Marvel it was Civil War, and then Secret Invasion, and Siege, and Dark Reign. It was like the Joe Quesada era, and it was like all these really fun, weird like world building eras that had really fun books. I mean, it was the Bucky time, which was great for me. So I was sort of dragged into comics, and it was very much like learning on the job kind of a thing.
Did you expect to hang out as long as you hung out, or you've been hanging out? I guess.
Well, I was under contract, so I had to hang out until I was done.
And then what does that mean? So like, are you like a short order cook at that point, where they're like, hey, you're our artist, so now we're just gonna send you whatever we need drawn?
Yes, basically. Okay. I mean, you get a choice in the book. I mean, you can turn down the job if you don't want to draw that thing. You can never turn it down. But the thing is, if you're under contract, and they'll be known as Marvel exclusive artists, if you're under contract, you get priority. They have to make sure you get the first pick at whatever's happening. And you tend to see like most of like big number ones are by Marvel exclusive artists. They want their big guys selling their books. So I was on Uncanny X-Men for a while, and then I think Captain Marvel was the next one. It's Captain Marvel and Star-Lord, and all of those were sort of these like, we need to give you a book. Sure. We want to do this thing. It wasn't really until Runaways that was really kind of like the first book that I felt was really made for me. Because the other books I kind of like, I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. Captain Marvel, I learned I do not like drawing space.
Yeah.
I do not like drawing sci-fi. I hate it so much.
Why? Just because, is it like me where this is all made up bullshit?
Yeah.
This guy's got a fucking weird tentacle nose.
I have to make it up. I have to make it up.
Yeah.
And what's weird is like, oh, we need a spaceship. And it used to be always a box with an engine. I'm like, no, like how does it land? How do they sit in there? What's the breathing apparatus? Like I start thinking about that stuff and I start freaking out because I'm like, I don't know how to make science work and I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
And then I just get caught. My brain just gets caught up in it and I just start spiraling. And then I have to make an entire space station and fleets of ships and an alien ship. I'm like, and so Runaways was the first like. I grew up reading Runaways. As a kid, I was the same age as them. I was 13, living in LA. About 13-year-olds living in LA. Like it was
full stop, because it's important to your story, I believe. What is the elevator pitch for Runaways?
Runaways is about a bunch of children, like late teenagers, who discover that their parents are supervillains, and and they run away from their parents and try to like figure out what their life is now that they know this whole. Now they know they have powers and they're all kind of dealing with that. One learns that they're immune. One learns that they're an alien. One learns that they're a sorceress, and they're sort of like doing kind of growing pains about that, but also the fact that they have this peripheral super world. So it really appealed to a lot of kids, especially a lot of indie kids at the time, because it was a book about powers, but not in a powers world. It's the West Coast of Marvel, so no one's even there, and so it's very much. Like, it feels just a story about kids that just happened to be Marvel characters. Wolverine happened to show up eventually.
Yeah.
But it's not really about a superhero continuity. It's not really about you don't have to know all of these long history of things. It's just about a bunch of kids.
You and I have talked about it before, right? And I think the reason it stands out so much in the pantheon of Marvel is that it feels like an indie book.
It 100% does.
You know what I mean? Like, and especially when you were on it in the second wave of it, it felt like you guys were making this thing that was creator-owned, which it wasn't, but it felt like it.
But for us, that felt like when they pitched me on the book to do it, they had been developing it with the writer for 3 years already, and they were just trying to find an artist for it, the right artist for it. And they wanted me for it, and I was like, no, like, because to me, like, this is a big pedigree thing, and I was like, no, I'm not ready for Runaways. And the editor just kept on me for a few months, and like sent me examples of the writer's work, Ray Morrell, and sent me the first arc of the script, and I was like, just read it, and then we'll see. And then I read it, and I was like, this is so fucking good, I have to do this. And then like as I was trying it, I was really like, I was a brown kid who grew up in LA at the same age as all of these kids. I'm like the most qualified person to draw this because like this is all down the street for me.
Yeah.
I already know I know who these kids are because I've read the book, but I also know who these kids are because I know the people that they're based they're
totally.
are like them.
Their archetype, yeah.
I know the Gert, I know the Carolina. Like someone complained to me when the designs first came out of like Carolina wearing a white romper, and I was like, this is not real. Wow. I sat outside for not 5 minutes until a blonde lady in a white romper and brown sandals walked by. I'm like, there it is.
Found it. There it is.
So it's like in a lot of things because we had like a lot of time jump happened between the original and when we started. And so the archetypes that they were in the early 2000s, in 04, don't exist anymore. That like Lolita goth doesn't really exist in LA. So I had to like figure what's the 2019, 2017 version of that look? What would she age into? So like I already knew these things. And so it kind of became one of these things of like, I was made for this book. And they also treated us, because of the nature of the book and because of us, that it was kind of a creator-owned because we were in our own little corner. We didn't have to deal with anyone's continuity. We didn't have to deal with events.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like I think Civil War crosses over into you like in a major way.
There was a big
Secret
event
Empire.
That happened. Whatever the big event was that happened at the time. Ignored it completely.
Yeah.
And we could just do our own little thing. It was just us and our editor, and that was it. That was our entire pool. So we can make this book that we really felt worked, and because it already was starting off as a niche book, we don't have to we're not trying to sell it to the Wolverine people. We're not trying to sell it to the Batman people. Like we got to lure you. Like no, we're selling it to everyone who already knows what this is, and everyone who just likes stories about people.
Yeah.
So it's honestly it was the proudest thing I've ever done. And then as my contract was ending, I was like, I've been running at this pace. I've been doing 18 hours a day of work for years now. I need a break.
Yeah. You say when your contract was ending, how long was that contract? How long had you been on
Runaways? It ended up
being
6-7 years.
Yeah, see, like that's nothing to sneeze at. That's the thing. Why I think if you're not a comic book person, you don't understand. Like you are Runaways.
It wasn't because people were like, oh, like why, like because they'd never done DC stuff. Like I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
And there was like little things I could kind of get with, but like I just wanted to, and then I kind of realized like I don't like having that shackle on me. I don't like being.
You're a baby bird. You're meant to fly.
Yeah,
man.
I want to run around. I want to play in all the pools. And so I got the opportunity. I mean, it was kind of a hard decision because this is the best book I've ever done, and I'm like, I do need to take this break. I need to like if I don't, I'll be on this forever, and I don't know when I'll actually have this time. And then my whole year blew up.
Yeah.
So it's like everything kind of timed out well, unfortunately, but it was just sort of this weird like confluence of events, and then so this whole year was sort of a wash. And honestly, all I've done is those two issues right there. That's all I've done all year.
The White Trees.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
And
now.
it's my first. Yeah. Both issues are out. Yeah. No plans on collecting it, so find the singles.
Comixology has them for sure.
Yes, they do. And so it was kind of it's my very first creator-owned books too. So it was this nice change of pace where actually like as I'm drawing, I'm like, I don't have to check in with anybody. Like, I don't have to have an editor approve this. I don't have to make sure the company cares. Like, no one cares.
Yeah.
We just kind of do whatever we want. So sort of got to build this whole little thing that's just bite-sized. So we didn't have to worry about, like, this is going to have to work forever. Like, no, just get 2 issues, get in and out with them, and call it. It's we kind of think of it's like a short film.
Yeah.
Or, building a full feature length is great, but there's a lot of pitfalls with that you don't have if it's like a 20-minute film. You can kind of just do this little bite-sized personal story, and that's kind of the way we approached it. So it was just sort of this fun little exercise.
So where you're at right now with your year blowing up and you being at this very interesting spot, right, where you're finally off contract, you can do whatever you want, blah, 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 and like you said that you got like kind of lured into comics.
Yeah.
What kind of questions are you asking yourself, and are you finding those answers? Like, right? Like, have you had enough distance from your father's death to like have like that? Here's what I learned from it. Here's like how fast life can change. Conversations with him. Career now is this what you want to be doing?
I mean, I think a good tell was as this all happened, Detective Pikachu came out like the weekend. Everything went to hell, so I never watched it. And then it came out, and I was like, oh, should I watch it? And everyone's like, maybe hold off.
Yeah.
Maybe hold off on this one. And so I finally watched it last night. And I was able to get through it. I was like, I'm okay. So I'm like, okay, I think that's kind of a tell that things are starting to get kind of at least settled in my head.
Sure.
And yeah, it's definitely sort of like there's these long like creator-owned projects that I've wanted to do, and I always felt that I was not ready for it. And then I'm hitting a point of like, no, I just need to do those.
Yeah.
Like that's just all I'm really giving a shit about. Going back to just do fill-ins on stuff, I'm like, I just can't get excited about it.
Now, hold on. So time out again for somebody, even myself. Fill-ins would be this artist is burned out on their their book.
Yeah,
they
we need someone
guest.
to fill in here. I mean, and I'm doing it. I'm doing it on. I'm gonna be doing it on 2 issues of Black Cat coming up.
Okay.
And that was something like they offered it because they know I love Black Cat.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't?
Yeah. Felicia Hardy's the best.
Exactly.
But they know that like, if it wasn't like, oh, can you be ongoing? I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I can put myself back into a like ongoing thing where someone is relying on me to kind of get this. Like I'm not sure I'm quite ready for that. But this short little two issue thing, and they gave me a lot of lead time, and I get to have a little fun with it. And like even the writers like working with me, like, what do you want to draw?
Yeah.
So I get to like put in a bunch of things that I'm really excited to do, and that's kind of like even using that as sort of this sort of training wheels again for me to kind of get back into the motion, because I started working on it like right before we came here, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so rusty. It's been so long.
It's all stick figures.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, what do I do? How do I do shots again? So as I'm kind of like working up again, it's really fun. But I don't really know what I wanted. I mean, I may just even want to change completely, just a good old. Because I mean, I have friends in video games, because LA is so ripe for this. Like LA is the industry city of animation and video games and entertainment. So it's like there's avenues I can look at that I've never really had a chance to look at before, because within a year of graduating college, I was in comics. I kind of was taken away. So,
do you think you're gonna stick it out? Do you think you'll be back? Do you think you're gonna? Is comics?
There's definitely 2 stories I definitely want to do. Like I have to get done, and even then, like if I get those done, I could feel happy never doing comics again.
No.
Not to say that I wouldn't do more, but it's like these are the stories that I need to tell.
These are the milestones. These are the tentpoles. Who are they involved? Tell me. You don't tell me. Don't tell me the story. Tell me what you can tell me. What do you want to tell me? What do you want to say? You say. Here's the other thing about you. You listen. First off, I didn't point this out. You're like a legit kind of funny best friend. Like somebody who listens to everything. Like
I watched 18 hours of Extra Life. So yeah.
Good Lord, man. So like you're the real deal. You know better than anybody like how it works here. Once you say something into a microphone, people will hold you to it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If you need more fire to these 2 things you want to do one day.
I mean, I can say one of them is pretty small. Is we want to do a sequel to The White Trees, where The White Trees is sort of this self-contained story by itself. So we want to do another self-contained story by itself.
Yeah.
Just in the world, we want to use, like, we call it a black sand tale. We want to use that as just the world. And then it's just going to be a vehicle for the world. We can put whatever stories in there. Like, the writer can go do other stories with other artists in the same world. I can do other stories in the same world. And we're just going to use it as, like, our fantasy world. So, it's our Westeros, our Middle Earth, that can flex with however much we need it to flex.
Okay.
Because we put no rules on it. So we wanted to do another self-contained 2-issue thing down the road, just to have another fun go. And it's just a fun little exercise. It's a fun little exercise to actually decide my own worlds. But that's about it for now.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. That's fine. That'll be fine. That's where it is. I'm looking. I'm like, why is Chip's name so familiar? And I couldn't pick up Sex Criminals. That's right.
Yeah.
That's that. And then I was seeing Peter Parker. We're on Games Daily now. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man as well, and I was like, I know that one. But then it was like, okay, that now I understand why this name is jumping off the page at me.
And also, everyone's like, there's like some stuff. So White Trees, if you don't know, is a very mature book.
I don't know. Pitch me White Trees.
It's about 3 ex-soldiers who get brought back into the war because their children have been kidnapped by the enemy. And so these 3 guys have to like work through their shit and go find their kids. But we also we wanted to do like, now that like I'm not chained under Disney, let's just throw as much sex in there as
I was gonna say this is where the TNA pops up again. Back to what every comic artist wants to do.
This is the smutty book.
Smut.
This is some smut
I'm
book.
paging through.
But it's funny because
whoa, there's a dick.
Oh yeah, no, we go full in, go full tilt. There's a scene in the second issue with one of the guys gets tied up, and I was like, I know the audience. I know, like, let's just make it a little fun. I
know the audience. So I know what they want.
I do a bondage tie on it, and everyone starts like, oh my god, Chip is such a great idea, because Chip is known for sex criminals. So they immediately assumed it was Chip. And then Chip is even like, that's not me. That was all Chris. And they're like, nah, Chip, you're like...
It's nice of you to pass the ball around, but we know it's really you,
that
pervert.
Was my idea. Chip did nothing.
Lame.
Chip just like put sexy shit here. I'm like, got it.
Thank you, sir. I'm on the case.
Especially because the original thing was written as both these issues are one long story.
Yeah.
It was just one long 60-page story, and I found like we talked about discussing and splitting into two issues, and I found like a really clean line was at page 30. Like there was a really nice like scene break. I'm like, cool, that's just split two issues there.
Yeah.
And so because there was no sexy stuff in the second issue, so I want to let me find some way to put something in the second issue. So I wanted to do the bondage stuff. But yeah, just everyone immediately assumes it's Chip because it's Chip, and I'm like, yeah, he's fucking
taking your.
He's riding my coattails in this one. He's got nothing. Sex criminals has got nothing on this.
It's embarrassment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. While we're here, I want to remind you, of course, some housekeeping stuff. Subscribe to this show. We Have Cool Friends usually post each and every Monday. You can watch us record it live, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. You can watch it later, youtube.com/kindoffunny. You can catch it on Rooster Teeth and podcast services around the globe. Kevin, what is going on with the wall?
It just, I'm typing other stuff, and for whatever reason, VLC thinks I'm talking to it. And
okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure it's like, I can work through anything. I just want to know what's going on. Patreon producers, we want to thank Al Tribesman, David Mindtell, the Mind Freak. And then, of course, our sponsors today are Mint Mobile and Felix Gray. We'll talk about those later. Chris, my question.
Those are new.
Huh?
Those are new.
Yeah, they are, right? Yeah. Well, Mint Mobile, this is a couple times with them. Tim's been using it with his mom, and then Felix Gray are the new glasses. But again, I'll talk about that later. You're going to hear about them. Don't worry about it. But I appreciate you listening to enough content that you know where the ads are.
Yeah, I'm like, I know the clips. I know the.
Remember, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Get all the show ad free if you really wanted to. Just putting it out there if you want to support us a little bit. You know what I mean? Just also, again, like I know I talk about this a lot. Thank you so much for putting the PS I Love You shirt in Star-Lord issue 1.
Yeah.
Remember, of course, Andre Lima Aru showing you up in every comic book he draws because he puts Kind of Funny references in everything. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Tom Taylor's talking about putting shirtless Batman in his something now too. Just putting it out there, letting you know a lot of things are happening over here, and it's not a competition. I mean, we love all the best friends.
Well, apparently I was so upfront about it. I got an email about it, so let's just. He's riding in the back, being stealthy about it. I just put it in the front.
That's true.
Yeah,
okay.
I put you on Star-Lord.
That's true. That's how the shirt went. Yeah. Okay.
I put you on Peter Parker, but who's Peter Parker?
Who knows?
No one.
Parker? Nobody. He's a nobody.
Even Disney doesn't like him.
No. They keep trying to get rid of him.
Get this kid out of here.
So here's my question for you.
What's up?
And this is a probing question. I want you to know. I don't need the actual things. I don't need to see a W-2. Does comics pay well? No? Because that's the thing. I think, in so many different industries, and granted, we usually talk about video games, right? Like, we understand, and I think the audience understands, like, it's tough to be working at IGN trying to make it work in San Francisco. It's tough to be working at a certain developer and be able to try to make these things work, so on and so forth. Comics, even to me, is a mystery, where, to me, right, I still flip out when Bendis will like a tweet that we're both mentioning. Doesn't follow me or anything like that, but I'll flip out about it, right? And then meeting you guys and seeing, like, having comic creators here is always so mind-blowing for me, for you guys to be able to walk in and be like, this is what I created this. Yeah. And I see the fandom behind the Runaways, and I see you doing the stuff. But then I see, you and Babs and whoever going to conventions and selling artwork and doing that stuff. And it's that weird thing of knowing knowing how conventions work. It's like, okay, cool, they're doing this to make more money, because they need, obviously more money is good, but the question then becomes like, are we in a point where there's so many comic artists and comics in general don't, I imagine, sell like I don't know how all the financials work down to see how it actually is for you as a person.
Okay, so a general thing is a story I like to tell, an anecdote. Working in an industry is like living in a cabin house. You got a bed, you have a fireplace, but you're sort of locked in this building. You have food there already ready for you. Working in comics is living in the cold. You are out in the wilderness. You have to hunt for yourself. You have to get your own shelter. But you can go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
You're out there. You can run. So
it's like permanent freelance.
Exactly. So there's kind of this weird grass is always greener, because every person I meet in video games, every person I meet in animation, they want to do comics because my name's on the front. That is a package that I worked on myself rather than, I did the trees in Death Stranding.
Yep. You finish it, and here's a 15-minute roll of credits, and everybody's hitting the button trying to skip, or they're getting a cup of coffee or whatever.
Yeah. I storyboarded that one quick scene that went by really quick, and even that had 3 different people touch it. So they really like the idea of comics because it is just you.
Yeah.
It is you and your writer, and you are barefaced to the world. Everyone can see everything you've done. It comes out once a month, so you get a lot more traction of name recognition. It comes up a lot, but I have no insurance. I have no security.
Yeah. When you were contracted at Marvel, did you have that?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's all freelance. It is all freelance. So it is just entirely up to you.
So then what, and I'm not at all trying to pry into your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit of having a contract with Marvel if it doesn't get you benefits to go do whatever?
Because comic work can dry up. Okay. So having a contract means it won't dry up for a specific amount of time.
Okay.
So I have job security for 4 years, but I don't have... I mean,
you're like a Marvel.
You don't get 401k, you don't get retirement, you don't get insurance, you don't get any of that. But you do have, in terms of a freelance world, because freelance is already so dangerous as it is. It takes a long time to build up enough cash of your name that you perpetuate the work. Having a contract is a really good security blanket of just like, we'll always give you the work. It's everything else that's not there and dangerous. So. To us, we're looking at everyone working a day job. Like, all I have to do is paint walls in Last of Us, and we're like, yeah, but no one is like going out. I mean, unless you're a woman in games, but no one's dragging your name in the mud once a month and attacking you all the time for nothing, because you know, a lot of times with comics, especially, people who read it have more time to think about what's happening in a panel than you do to make it. One of the things, I know people who get really nitty gritty with the comic. I'm like he's gonna look at that for 5 fucking seconds. Move on, just move on. It doesn't matter that much. Why is the hair wrong this issue? It's because the editor has been up for 24 hours, is exhausted, and no one caught it. And the artist drawing it has no time to read comics, so he's missed the last year of stuff. So he doesn't know that the hair has changed, and he just has to make this issue on time. And so there's little things that misses, and then we get attacked for it because you don't know what you're talking about.
They don't care about this. They don't care about the legacy.
It's like I don't got enough time to read every goddamn Superman book.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
Yeah. Even though you do.
I mean, I do.
When I was bitching on one comics cast about I'm not understanding this one line, you wrote to me the dissertation of I believe it's because of this and what Bendis is doing here.
Yeah, I think I'm like the only person who still reads every Wednesday. I'm like, first thing I do every Wednesday is I read the new stuff. Which are you caught up with Superman in Action Comics?
No, I'm behind on just about everything. Okay. But with Superman 18 coming, that's I got to be on it.
You think he's gonna do it like legit?
Yeah, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's Brian. It's probably, yeah.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen,
Superman's going to reveal himself.
18, the idea here is that Clark Kent is going to reveal that he's Superman. Yeah. And he's going to live out and proud. Loud, out, and proud is going to be the thing.
I'm also so used to comic, he does it for an issue, but it's it's like the ending of Far From Home. Of outing Peter, and I'm like, yeah, they'll finish, they'll wrap it up in one movie. He's either going to go on the run or he's going to clear his name. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with this is, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is going to happen. I do 1,000% believe he will be revealed. I think that in 4 years, it'll be retconned away, and he'll be back to having the dual identity.
Peter Parker, Civil War.
Well, and I mean, it happened, or like Superman right before this one. Because if you remember Rebirth Superman, the same thing happened, where Lois blew him up, and then he went on the run in the T-shirt and jeans and short hair, and it was really weird. The thing about it, though, is I think the Bendis Superman stuff has been hit or miss for me. Mm-hmm. Where I thought the action stuff for the longest time was great. This is it. Give me the Clark stories. And then the Superman stuff got weird of now we're out in space.
Yeah, it's just him punching things in negative
space. And here's, Rogal Zar. I'm like, oh, God. And even I love Jonathan being young and Jonathan getting aged up and not the fact that I thought it was such a betrayal. By the way, we're doing the comics cast after this Patreon exclusive dollar show.
We'll go over all this again.
No, it's all going to get interwoven. So I'm just saying, if you like comic book talk like this, you should go to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Give us $1 where Kris will be there to talk about Immortal Hulk and everything else. But I thought it was such a betrayal of the characters of Lois and Clark as parents to be like, yeah, okay, Jor-El, who's got the one eye, and those were other books that I totally skimmed, not even really read before. Where I'm like, I thought we didn't like him. Why are we trusting him to go off because he's whatever. I was like, blah. But that said, I thought it's been interesting with the whole thing of if you're not caught up, there was a photo release that people caught of Superman kissing Lois. And Lois, of course,
that's right.
is publicly married to Clark Kent. So there's a great thread of recently going on, and one of the more recent ones, because she's living in Chicago, of Clark and her walking.
Is that
up,
where she is?
Yeah, she's at the Drake. She's right on Lake Michigan. Of them walking to like breakfast or whatever, and somebody walks by and is like basically like slut. And Clark's like, and she's like, don't go after him, honey. And he's like, doesn't this? I actually think I screen grabbed. I screen grabbed things that speak to me in comics or whatever.
Was that in action?
It was either action. It might have even been Lois Lane #1. Did you read Lois Lane #1 from Rucka?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that.
Lois Lane. The books that are going on right now with her are great. Hold on, photos. I'm gonna do all this, and then I guarantee I probably deleted it, and I don't even have it. Yeah, I don't even have it down here anymore because I did get rid of it. But it's the idea of of her being, she's like, or he's like, hey, I'm gonna go after that guy, and she's like, you can't go after everybody. You can't. Doesn't it offend you? Doesn't? And she's like, whatever, I don't care. I'm happy. I live a good life. I have a good son and husband. Why should I care? Blah, blah. Yeah. So I think that's going to be one of the motivating factors for it. But on top of it, I think it's going to be this idea of like, why are we doing this? Like, I think comics and superhero films and everything else, we do have I do this to protect the people who are close to me, but it always ends up blowing up in their faces.
I mean, even with Marvel, you look at the MCU. Only one character does that.
Iron Man.
Peter.
Yeah.
Peter's the only person that has a secret identity.
Himself. Yeah.
Everyone else is just like, nah, I'm Steve Rogers all the time. Because, like, you know what that means, picking a fight with Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Like, you know what that means going after Tony. So it's like everyone's already out about it. So, like, it's kind of this old, archaic.
Totally.
I mean, it's very much a DC thing, honestly.
Totally. It's something we accept. And I really do think it's interesting, and I really am interested to see. I think it was the New York Times did an interview with Bendis about it. And it's not spoilery as much as like, yep, we're doing this. No, it's not a feint. It's actually a thing. I'm committing to it. And him being like, I think he said something that I'm going to totally butcher, but it was poignant of like, listen, we have seen Superman stories for 80 years. Yeah. Doing this suddenly opens up to thousands of stories we've never told before.
Instead of retreading the same thing.
And so it is. I really do like the idea of like the superhero, the person in the DC universe suddenly is like, I don't need this anymore. And what does that mean? Not for Batman, but for like...
Yeah, since like Bruce is probably the only one who really needs it.
Yeah. But like for Green Lanterns and for everybody else and like just like these, not even C-listers, but like other people who wear masks, like wow.
Green Arrow, yeah.
I always loved at the end of Kingdom Come, right? When it was that idea of like we've put ourselves on. Superman gives that speech at the United Nations, basically like we've put ourselves on this pedestal above you, and no longer we're gonna come live on the ground with you. Yeah. And like at the same time, Green Lantern takes off his domino mask, and Jade holds, or Alan Scott does that. Yeah. And so like it was the one that actually probably it doesn't even exist anymore in continuity, but it was when they came back to Kingdom Come universe to I think do GOG or whatever. It was Clark being Superman, where he was just wearing his glasses, welding stuff, and he wasn't in a costume. He was in a flannel and whatever. He's like, all right, cool, and he flew away. And I was like, that's a neat look. But that's the interesting thing. And Bendis teased this too of like, someone asked him like, so is Clark still a reporter? Or Superman still a reporter? And he's like, that's one of the many stories we want to tackle. No, and then it is that thing of like, when he flies around now, are people saying, thanks, Superman? Are they saying, thanks, Clark? Like,
It is much more rich with DC because DC's never gone into what if their identity's public. Other than, because even Wonder Woman, I guess, is kind of the only one who really is who she is all the time. It's been such a Marvel staple of everyone just out. I mean, Steve is always Steve, and Carol Danvers is always Carol Danvers.
Well, it's so much more realistic.
Yeah.
So how did you hide this thing from everybody?
Yeah. Especially nowadays, and you're just doing Clark with just glasses.
Yeah.
It's like...
I'm
pretty sure every facial recognition software is going to figure this out.
That's 100% correct. Yes, that is 100%
sure,
correct.
Maybe a person may not quickly... The ATM knows.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Like everyone's scanning your face. They're all like the entire military knows who Clark Kent is.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to kind of see. Maybe even Batman. I mean, we see in movies of like, the back of your head, I can figure out your faces. So maybe even Batman even now too.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fascinating. I think they do a lot of interesting stuff.
Cool, actually.
Because it is too. Is he gonna still be a journalist? Was like. No, he better get bounced from the planet because they should be like, you've been writing about yourself for a decade or whatever.
You've been putting yourself in your own stories. Like you're causing these things to happen. You can't do that. You're not
how this works.
You're not objective at all.
That's not journalism. Yeah.
Because even, at least Peter Parker is like it's just photos.
So now, first off, no, fuck that. That's still a problem. That's still a huge journalism problem. Yeah. But like,
well, I was just thinking about it's just Peter posing in an alleyway. I'm like, I'm Spider-Man. I'm like, that's all he's doing.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Keep defending it. You know what I mean? The death of journalism in front of me. Kris Anka story.
It's already dead.
You talk about still being the guy who goes and reads everything on Wednesday, right? Like, did working in comics the way you have, obviously, for so long and at such a brutal pace, did that ever take away from that?
No, really? Not for me. No, because this was like my childhood hobby. I've been reading monthly comics since I was 11, and I haven't missed I've never fallen out. Wow. And I just like doing it. And I think there's a sort of this. There was sort of a training that you kind of have to go through to getting into monthly comics that I feel I don't know if anyone is figuring out how to do it anymore. You just jump in.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just dive into like the middle of Bendis' New Avengers, and I'm like, who the fuck is the Sentry? I don't know what's House of like and you just go with it.
You got it, yeah.
And
which is so not for everybody, and why
and the thing
comics
is,
have
as
such
soon
a
as you
problem.
kind of accept the fact that like I'm just not going to understand, just roll with it. Then every month you can kind of like, cool, this is just more of what's happening, and I think actually getting to be in comics and getting to meet people in comics, it helped me even more of like, oh, no one cares. Everyone's just trying their best with working with two sticks, and they're like, we're just gonna make a story out of this somehow.
Yeah.
And you got a week to get it done, and so you kind of like you realize that not everyone is able to put in all the time in the world to craft an amazing story all the time, because when we talk about like let's compare Visions to Batman by Tom King, Taylor. I keep getting confused.
That happens all the time.
Visions is such this like microcosm story that he could really craft and we can work. And with Batman, there's some hit and misses. There's some really good stories. There's some not really good stories, and you can kind of tell of like what you can really spend time on and what you just have to get out the door.
Yeah.
So I think getting to really see that working, even my job of like Uncanny X-Men, of just gotta get out there, just draw whatever X-Men in there, whatever you want all the time. Things are just gonna be misses, and things are just not gonna make sense, and some issues just don't work, and that's part of the ride. Part of the ride is not everything's gonna be good, so you just have to like the worlds enough to just kind of keep going. And so I can kind of like just breeze through comics. I'm like, oh, this is a fun idea. Oh, this is just more Hulk punching shit.
Yeah.
And I think also because I read comics much more for the art, so I'll just pick up random books because I just love the artist.
Sure.
And so that kind of also even makes sort of my pool even bigger because I'm just reading it because Clay Mann's it. I don't fucking give a shit what Bruce is doing. I just like that Clay Mann's drawing this issue. And so like yeah, it's never really, and I think it's also kind of. You can get bogged down if you're just thinking about it as a job all the time.
Yeah.
And you kind of need that. Oh, why did I love this? So getting to read comics, every week by my peers that I really like. That's still weird that they're peers to me. And I get to like, oh yeah, this is just fun. This is just fun reading the X-Men. This is just. I still read the X-Men. I still hum the X-Men animated series theme in my head as I'm like, yeah. Or like if I have to draw Spider-Man, I'm singing the fucking animated theme.
Nice.
It's like, oh, this is just fun. And
which one? The 90s one or the old?
The 90s one.
Okay.
The 90s one.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe Perry.
Yeah. So good. And I also think that's what conventions are there for too, because I think conventions are there to make money and all that as well. But conventions are also to meet people who this job that you lost sleep on, that you just had to shit out, meant something to somebody.
Yeah.
And I think it reminds us, especially us as fans, of like, oh yeah, like we have books that we love, and to someone that was just a day job too. And it's a good reminder that even though it is something that you're like, I'm just rushing this out, like, there's something in it for somebody, and someone's gonna find that little nugget. And you always forget that other people like the thing that you did as much as you like things in your life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the big motivation of even if I'm trying to phone this in, it's like someone's gonna give a shit.
Yeah.
And I have to try my best to make sure that I can give it back to them. And I think that's kind of what really gets me through everything. Especially on these big continuity books that you talk all the time about the vocal minority and all that. Like you're hearing Twitter yell at you.
Totally.
But then at conventions, all you meet are people who just fucking loved it.
It's funny. I've never thought about it from that perspective, but I mean, it's the same thing for us / when I worked at IGN, where it was the fact that at IGN, kind of funny fans are great, obviously. IGN's so big that usually it was just the fact this guy fucking sucks and I hate him, and then you'd go to a PAX and you would have this it would refill you of like, oh fuck, that's why we're doing this.
And everyone was like, oh, we didn't think you'd read it. I'm like, you tagged me. It's my name. Of course I'm gonna read this thing. But there's just a disconnect of like what you think my life is to what my life actually is to what you are.
Yeah. Well, and this goes back to my question about do comics pay, right? Where to me, people who create comics are fucking celebrities. Like, you know what I mean? Like I flipped out when I met when I finally I wouldn't even meet him, but I was like Tom Taylor, who I flipped out when I met for the first time at a Superman party at Comic-Con.
I met him doing a signing. I was doing a signing next to him. I was like, oh shit, you're Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
When
oh wow.
At the Superman thing, we'd already known each other through the internet because luckily I was one of the first people to be like, Injustice comics are amazing. Everybody should read this. He brought me to a circle with all these other DC people, and I was next to Mike Carlin. And I flipped the fuck out to be next to him because I remember getting my Superman for All Seasons poster signed by him at Wizard World Chicago with my dad next to me and my dad holding the bag, right? Yeah. And like to think that it is, and I know that this sounds so fucking weird because I'm Greg Miller and I have kind of funny and whatever, and like I don't think of it, but it's a job, right? Like it's just their job and they're trying to pay their bills. And of course, on the other side, they're just like me now of like, God, the sink's broken at home, and I got to do this thing, and I'm going to see the kid do this. Like, it's everyday life.
She's paying for my kid's braces,
right?
That's all it is to me. And you're like, no, but that issue, like you did that one thing with Storm, and like, oh my god,
yeah.
Like, yeah, like, cool, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And
so it's good, like reframing your perspective on it.
So I think in the very same way, and I can only make parallels in my world, right? Where you look at IGN, GameSpot, you look at us, you look at all these different things. You remember the success stories, right? The people who we broke out and we did this kind of thing, right? Damon and Altano have been at IGN for years. Everything is great. Similarly here, right? Of like, man, Jim Lee's moved up and he's like running DC, right? That's awesome. Bendis has got this kind of blah blah blah. Is it the same way that once you get past that top tier or those like the names everybody knows, is there a churn of people who come in, this is their dream, they're doing it, holy shit, I can't make $1 doing this, I'm not putting anything away, I need to go on to something else? Like, is it an industry that there's a future in, or is it an industry that like does not grind people out, but
it's changing? It doesn't know what it is right now. There is very much this shift. It's really honestly it's really similar to the 90s and with the image boom and sort of that sort of crash, where the success of the movies are not translating into the comics.
Sure.
How many MCU fans do we know who don't give a rat's ass?
Have no idea what's happening in the comics,
And no one can figure out why there is that massive disconnect. Why is it just characters? Is it just because I really like Chris Evans as Steve Rogers and I don't see a book with that version of Steve Rogers? Or is it just like movies are so just ingrained in what everyone likes to do that the idea of comics is still so niche? Is it a weird, we got to break through that? So it just doesn't translate. So getting into comics, I mean, I think it's different. People who get into indie comics do it because they just want to draw comics.
Yeah.
People who get into the big two want to draw big two. And the people who want to draw big two will sort of take we take the pay decrease because you get to draw Spider-Man, you get to draw.
Sure.
But as soon as that like mystique is gone, there really is nothing left for you there. Especially when in other industries pay you so much better. Book illustration, even oftentimes a base job in animation will pay you better,
sure.
and we'll give you insurance and we'll give you all that. So the people who really make it in comics, who can kind of rise to like even a B tier, just love comics. So the reward for them is doing the craft. And that's kind of the only way you can really get through it. There is no other sort of, unless you really, really punch through. And then you're getting royalties and you're getting movie stuff and you're getting all that, or you have a really successful indie book. But it is really hard. I think the allure of comics is that it's entirely transparent. You can watch the entire growth of somebody. It's not behind a 7-year development cycle. It's not. How many shows do we really know the showrunner of?
Sure.
We don't really think about it that way. Even games is a bit more transparent in that regard. But comics is, even the baseline person is there, out in the open. You can meet that person. And that's even also a kind of a weird oddity of this is the first time that you can really have access to these creators, because before, like, you'd have to find them at a convention. Even then, like,
totally,
will they come to your city? You don't even know. You're going to meet them once every 10 years. Now you can just tweet at them. And so there's this whole, like, every part of comics is in this weird growing shift pain of being incredibly public, being incredibly popular, at least franchise-wise, and the characters are incredibly popular. And no one quite knows what all these pieces mean. And nothing's settled yet. We're in this really big topsy-turvy kind of...
Why do you think the movies don't translate to the people actually coming into shops and buying books?
Because I think it's so much easier to watch one movie than it is to
100%.
like. So where do I start with Iron Man? And they're like, whoa,
oh, we gotta get this and get that,
and then they're done. They're already
totally,
out.
yeah.
Instead of like, oh, you just go watch Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's on the shelf. So like I remember this tweet thread. I think it was by Eric Larson, who does Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
He was making a tweet of like the way the big two needs to work is that they become self-contained trades
Yes.
about characters. So be kind of like mini movies. And I think that will be the easiest way to translate into those fans.
That's what I've been pitching forever, and you've heard it a million
Yeah.
times. We probably talked about it before, right? But I just don't get why. I get it, because you need the way comics has been run for its entire life cycle is every week you're going there. Every month there's this. There's a reason to come back. But I'd so much more love it if it was what DC does with
Everyone
year
just binges.
one.
Everyone just binges.
Here's
yeah.
here's 120 pages telling you a very specific story.
Yeah, the Earth ones. Yeah, the Earth ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think that would get away from what even you're talking about, where it's like, fuck, I just got to get this done. Get it out.
yeah,
You know what I
you get
mean?
to spend a year and you get to make this really nice story about,
Whatever, yeah.
Thor, and you put it out there and like this is a nice self-contained Thor, and you get to digest it like you digest the movie.
Yeah.
You get to sit, you get to read it at your own pace, and I think that's kind of a big thing. But it's like also I love continuity, and it's like this weird.
And that's my thing is, when I say this, I never
know,
really destroy continuity.
yeah.
I love the idea that you're like, I'm going to pick up on year one, whatever, right? Yeah. And okay, cool. There's been 3 year ones of Green Lantern. I read them all. I understand that continuity. I can tell a story in it.
Yeah, the problem is that there's only so much hallway until you hit that door of like, well, now we're just gonna throw you out into the field. And you're like, oh boy, I don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like figure that out.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. I was doing all your X-Men reviews last week, and even listening to you guys talking about First Class. You guys really like First Class, but every 5 minutes you're like, that doesn't even matter. I'm like, that stuff matters to me. Like that's why I don't like First Class.
Yeah.
There's all of these things that they were just really flippant about. I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. This doesn't work. And so like you can't get both. And so I feel like comics still wants to be that old school, like if you care about Captain America, you've cared everything. Like you care about Capwolf, like you have to.
Totally.
And I was like, and like Capwolf is fun, but you also have to remember that they're coming in completely fresh. You can't fucking throw them into the deep end like that.
Yeah.
And no one really knows how to make that work. I mean, I think even in a way, DC's even more successful in that because DC has so many fucking different versions.
Yeah.
That you go in already like it doesn't really matter. Like just read whatever you want to read.
Well, it's like I thought. We're going to talk about it on the
12
Comic Book
different
Club after.
multiverses at the same time.
And that, but we're going to talk about the Comic Book Club after, right? Like Tales from the Dark Multiverse, the Death of Superman, right? Jeff Loveness, Brad Walker. Loveness did some Superman stuff a couple years ago now or whatever in the last year.
Didn't he
We've
do a
talked
short
about-
that you really liked?
Huh?
I thought Loveness did like a Superman short.
Yeah.
That you really liked.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the one with the breakfast burrito.
That's
He
right.
took-
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. But this one in general is like, all right, cool. What if Lois became the Eradicator when Superman died? But it's like, it is written and drawn clearly like they were like, look, they read Superman 75 and they read Return of Superman and they're like, all right, cool, let's do this because her hair is the same, Lex is the same, like Superboy's the same. They're referencing things that happen. Like, it's a brilliant thing of what I'm talking about. Of like, awesome, thank you for because I know like when Bendis, no, right before Bendis, right, where they brought back Clark and Lois and Jonathan, and they made it, and like he got the powers, and then they retconned all that. It was like, all right, well, they showed Death and Return of Superman, but they didn't show Superboy in the jacket because was he really? It's like fucking God, this is like very much like, fuck all that shit. We're in a multiverse. It doesn't matter. We're jumping off 75. Fuck off.
Yeah, because you have 90 Superboy, then you have Connor Kent, and then now we have a merge of both of them at the same. They're just like, fuck it, there's 3 Superboys, just and even then there's now John Kent as well. It's like there's 2 Superboys right now in like a fresh new universe. It's like it's DC, and I think that's like everyone who grew up watched Justice League the cartoon, and then you had which kind of worked. I mean, actually, honestly, now I'm thinking about it, animation is also the worst example because it grows out of Batman, the animated series, and Superman, like all actually go into one long continuity. Yeah. But then you had the movies that were all completely different. So like you already were kind of ingrained of the fact that DC just Batman. Just if you like Batman, read whatever Batman story there is. There's Gaslight, there's a vampire, there's whatever. Marvel doesn't quite have that. Marvel doesn't quite have like there's different versions. They tried with Ultimate, and so at the time there's 2. And then we've got rid of one. It comes out, Miles is in 616 and all that jazz. And so there's this weird, what's the real version? And you can even see it of like they're trying to make comic versions like the movie versions because that's the one that everyone likes. Everyone likes Robert Downey Jr. So it's like how do we make Tony more like that version? But then if you do that, you got to throw away so much stuff.
And that was the thing, right? Is even when they started the new Tony Stark, Iron Man, Tony Stark, whatever it was, #1. Yeah. I remember picking that up and reading it. I'm like, man. They wrote this right after watching all of RDJ do that. And I love it. That's great. That's great. But then it got to the point where his mom was working with them because his mom was this old metal singer, and I'm like, what the fuck did I miss here? Like, what are you talking about?
I think that was Bendis.
Yeah, no, I think it was. Yeah, and I was like, all right, cool.
Bendis loves punk rock so much,
but it's
in every one of his books.
It's exactly what you're talking about. Where I was like, cool, I don't understand this, and it's not important enough for me to go back and read the thing and figure the thing and do the thing. I'll just keep going. I got it. His mom was.
Because it's like Tony's parents are dead. Like they died in a accident before. That's this story. And so that's what we're so used to, it's like if there's a, what happens if there's a different Uncle Ben now, and you're like what now? Who?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like Uncle Ben is dead. Like that's the whole point. So there's always these weird growing pains, and no one knows what to do with it. How much do you take for the movies? Because how much does that betray who you are? There's all of these things all at the same time, and it's just this weird. It's a weird time.
Very.
Yeah.
Hard to do, I imagine. Yeah, like you're saying, I never thought about taking from it, right? Because that's the interesting thing about it of whose is what and like how do you own this, and not to mention that I feel like if you are at the big two and you are writing or drawing them, right? Like you're borrowing this, you're renting this right now, right? Yeah. This isn't your. Hopefully, but
it's the companies.
Yeah.
And you just go in with that, and you're like, you have to I want to try to tell the best version I can of that character, but it's not yours. It's the companies, and they can easily come down and like, we're not doing any of that. We want you to write that version.
Yeah.
Do that, and then you have to do it. You have to draw it that way. Because even when I was drawing Star-Lord, I had to draw movie Star-Lord. That was and I was able to like, can we change his costume? This is a whole new period. Can we change this? Because that's not a fun costume to draw. That costume isn't designed to be drawn. But they went with it because of that's the version of Peter Quill that everyone knows. Sure. Especially because of the success of the two Guardians movies. So you just had to go in with that idea because they just changed his costume before from an armor into that look because this is the version. This is the version people will buy. And I had to make a discussion of like, can we change this out to give him a much more recognizable look? But it was a given that I had to draw the movie version. And so like that whole discussion is happening all the time, and they're trying to figure out where and when. Bucky all of a sudden had long hair again because the movie version has long hair, and that's the version people know of Bucky.
You want it to be identifiable. You look at it, you get it.
And the identifiable versions are the movie versions.
Yeah.
So there's sort of this like they don't quite know what to use and what not to use, and it's happening everywhere. So it's just kind of this weird. Or we'll see how it lands. We'll see it through Phase 4 and see how much longer this even goes for, and does that have the lasting power of? Because it feels like Endgame was a good stopping point.
Yeah.
And like the big kind of climax of everything. So we're going to see what the next few years is even going to look like.
That's what's going to be fascinating. And like, don't get me wrong, I've been wrong before. I think people always like to bring up this game over. I'm like, the Guardians of the Galaxy, who fucking cares about them? You know what I mean? And it's true. Nobody did.
No one did.
They killed it with the movie. And so
even people who knew comics were like, the fucking Guardians?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I'm at the point now where like, cool, I look down what's coming and it's like, man, The Eternals does not sound like a Greg Miller movie, but I've been proven wrong time and time again with the MCU and Kumail's, and it's like I'm interested to see what this is going to be. But yeah, do we get another 5 years in and everybody's like, man, I really miss Cap and I really miss this, and then we have to have the whole like, all right, now the movies are dealing with the same problems the comics have. Like, all right, I guess let's reboot this universe or figure out how to do this in a clever way.
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of interesting. So it's like the Avengers game coming out.
Oh yeah.
When I saw the first things, I was like, all right, blah. And it's interesting the fact that I was at New York Comic Con when they did the whole reveal of like Kamala Khan and seeing the Kamala. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting now because like that's something new.
Yeah,
that's not something that's been treaded on before. And that's a whole new take of them discussing of like Kamala is the person who could bring the Avengers back together because there is no equivalent of the fan person of the Marvel universe. So I was even thinking for DC, like what would the most similar be? What, Tim Drake?
In terms of kind of a fan of superheroes and stuff?
Yeah, I'm just like, he's investigated Bruce, and that's how he figured out how to become Robin.
Bendis just introduced Naomi, right? That's kind of her whole bit.
Kind of, yeah, I guess, yeah. So like having the sort of the Kamala breath of fresh air into this universe of like I know those 6 guys. I'm tired of those 5. There's no Hawkeye. So having Kamala was like, oh, that's something fresh. That's something that I haven't even thought about how that would interact of a new universe too. Like not this thing with years of continuity because this universe doesn't have a Carol so far.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does that look like where it's just Kamala by herself in a world where she gets to like kind of like be the spearhead. I'm like, she sounds really fucking interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see what they do with it because I feel like that game has been behind the 8 ball since it started, right?
Like,
Awkward
awkward
E3 reveal where like people are like and everything's free. We're like, what the fuck's the game? What are you even talking about? DLC plans. And then the more you saw of it, well, it doesn't look like the movie Avengers. Oh, they don't look, and like you played, and it's like, oh well, they don't feel or look, and it's like. You're getting that sampling platter. Here's everybody you're playing for the first, whatever I played, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of it. And then imagine, boom, 5 years later, you're Kamala Khan. It's like, oh, then the real game starts. And it's like, oof.
Yeah.
I understand there's a lot to put out there and talk about, but maybe that was a different way to start it. But in the end, who cares? Because people still care. Where everybody's devouring all this information leading up to it.
I feel like you should have combined a little bit of the Kamala stuff with a bit ago to kind of get like, oh, here's the 60 and then a bit more of that little.
Right, yeah. Here's what.
Because even with... the old Spider-Man shows before the Spider-Man game came out, you had that like, oh, there's Miles.
Yeah.
You know there's Miles.
He's involved somehow in it, yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Because even with Peter, everyone knows who Peter is. He's very much kind of Batman-esque. Like everyone just embraces there's all these different versions of Peters, especially now post-verse. That having that something new of like, oh, that's the new flavor into this. That even if you tell an amazing Spider-Man game, which they fucking did, that you have that new element that kind of helps give you like, this is a... You haven't seen this before.
And see, that's what I think. Fucked up isn't the right word, but I mean, like in terms of just shooting the shit out over a beer, right? That's what got fucked up, I think, with the reveal, where it was, hey, it's the Avengers, and it's like, I know the Avengers, and those aren't them. And it's like, well, no, there's other. We're going in a different direction with them. They're going to get somewhere different, but like, with all the stuff we're going to show you for 4 months is going to be things that are clearly pulled from things you should know, but don't work out the way it should be.
And it's, I mean, it's a tough hill to climb, given like you're at the height of Avengers popularity.
Totally right. Yeah,
it can work for you, but it's also really bad for you as well.
Bar super high.
How does an Avengers comic break away from following Infinity War and Endgame? Like how do you stand out? It's like, I don't even know if you can after that whole popularity.
Do you worry about the future of comics as comics? That's always the thing, it's always just thrown around. Oh man, it's so hard to run a comic shop. Oh, they close up more and more. This, that, and the other. You're not getting paid a lot. You're getting paid something. And people, there's a system, but it is always that thing that it seems like, as we've seen time and time again, even when it's a big corporation, if one vertical isn't making money, close it up.
And honestly, it's so well. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what's even like how it can work or how it won't work. I mean. It's going to have to make a severe change soon just to kind of make its mark again. And we haven't really had that since the 90s.
Yeah.
What do
you think was the last time it made its mark?
Well, like the big image, like the image exodus out of Marvel and DC and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and McFarlane and having that like, we can make stuff that isn't part of a company that can stand on its own. And that really shook everything. And we've been kind of settling ever since then.
Yeah.
And I feel like something like that needs to happen, but it needs to happen in a larger scale. It needs to be an industry change rather than just like we're artists are not getting paid enough. Because I think everyone's just gotten really comfortable, and I think the movies have actually kind of helped make everything comfortable to a point of no one. It doesn't need to reinvent itself, and I think we're getting the growing pains of you've gotten really stale. And so you need to shake this up to like make sure that you can keep going.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I worry about it, right? Because I love comics so much, but then I'm part of the problem where it's even for me with all my nerdy hobbies and stuff, like it's always games, so it's like something always falls behind. Yeah. So like when we're in these seasons, it is like, oh man, I'm not reading as much as I should be. I'm not talking about them. I'm not buying.
Even hear about the horror stories of like people who don't pick up their pull lists.
Totally.
And they're like, this is hundreds of dollars that we lost because you haven't come to get this yet.
Yeah.
Like that also seems like a broken system.
Yeah.
If you're relying on people that they have to come by and pick up your stuff.
Yeah.
To like that's like.
So if you're not familiar, if you're a casual comics fan or just kind of funny fan who's made it this far into it, because Kris is so enthralling. Thank you very much, Kris. There's the idea that when you go to a local comic book shop, you can sign up for a pull list, which is basically you
Pre-orders.
Write down the comics you want, but you're not giving them any money for it. The idea
it's
is
an IOU.
It's an honor system that cool. Every Wednesday or whenever, I'll come in and buy. I'll buy what you've pulled aside for me. But then people lapse and don't go.
Which
like
is convenient for people because then they're like, I don't have to worry about my issue of Spider-Man being there.
Yeah.
But then the problem is the shop doesn't make any money until you come in.
Exactly. So it's like, imagine how you lapse on your gym membership and you walk into your comic shop and there's a pile of this
the gym's like, we had to sell stuff because you weren't here, so we have no equipment left.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how. So like, a lot of comics needs to like grow, and I feel
well, it needs to get shaken up. Like you're talking, the growth isn't even the thing because it's the old ways don't work anymore.
Yeah,
like you need to figure this out on how to make this keep going, and it's
like the fact that like you can track comic sales numbers. But only numbers that are getting reported are the print sales.
Yeah.
We don't know what digital sales are.
Welcome to video.
So there's
games.
books that like that survive off. Like I mean, you can use Squirrel Girl as an example of like if you look at print numbers of Squirrel Girl, it's nothing. But digital is where it makes its money. Digital and trades is where it makes its money. But we don't know what the digital numbers are. Even the creators like I don't fucking know what any book does on Comixology. Even though like Runaways will be in the top 10 the week it comes out, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, like, but that's not. No one is deciding if Runaways continues on those digital numbers. We don't, because we don't get access to it. We only see print numbers, and that's just an archaic way to
totally
think of it. Of like, no one's going this way anymore, and especially the audience that we're trying to sell to doesn't go to shops. They go to bookstores. They go digital, and so that's a bad thing for shops. But also only relying on that way is creating false information. So no one is even on the same page of what is the truth of any of this going on. We don't even know.
Yeah.
So like all that needs to just get thrown out the window and start it over. Figure out what's going on. I mean the fact that the digital games have gone on so well. Because I remember even a time where everyone's like, nah, because everyone likes discs so well and all that. But like it's catching on enough that like people are actually you can hear about those numbers. You can hear what's happening. So you can rely on those numbers of this game is a success, even though not many discs went. It's going over here.
Yeah, it didn't show well on NPD, but we know that blah 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 hit these numbers. So here you are.
But we don't even get that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that needs to kind of get shaken up because a lot of it has been just been the way it is since the 70s and the 80s, and it just doesn't work anymore. So
well. Speaking of better ways to make money, let me tell you about our sponsor. Hey, you know what I mean, Kevin? That was a good one. I'm pretty proud of that one. Let us start, ladies and gentlemen, with Felix Gray blue light filtering glasses. You may not realize it, but the average American blasts their eyes with bright screens for 11 hours every day. When you consider how much one of your days revolves around our devices, it doesn't seem so crazy. Of course, I'm here, I'm looking at this thing, I got a screen there, I got this there. The We Have Cool Friends thing is reflecting in your glasses. I'm looking at my phone, I'm playing on there's a lot of things going on. The fact is, we can't eliminate extensive screen time from our lives, but you can protect your eyes from it with a pair of Felix Gray blue light filtering glasses, available both prescription and non-prescription. Tim has these at his desk. He's been using them. He had some eye stuff. He likes these. This says it's helping. The majority of Americans live with tired, dry, blurry vision or headaches caused by screens. If this sounds familiar, Felix Gray glasses are for you. Felix Gray glasses filter out 90% of high-energy blue light and eliminate 99% of glare coming from your daily barrage of screens. Unlike other blue light filtering glasses, Felix Gray uses proprietary blue light technology embedded into the lenses as opposed to a cheap coating that can easily chip or scratch over time. Felix Gray is on a mission to make fashionable, high-quality blue light protection widely accessible by offering a variety of frames for all faces, shapes, and sizes. Felix Gray frames are handcrafted from the same high-quality materials used in high-end designer frames like organic Italian acetate, that's right, and German engineered steel. Felix Gray glasses are available in prescription, non-prescription, and readers, as well as adult and kid sizes. Don't go another day looking at screens without the help of some Felix Grays. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/kinda for free shipping and 30 days of risk-free returns or exchanges. That's felixgrayglasses.com/kinda, felixgrayglasses.com/kinda. Our other sponsor, well, it's Mint Mobile. If you're still using one of the big wireless providers in 2019, have you asked yourself what you're paying for? Between expensive retail stores, inflated prices, and hidden fees, you're being taken advantage of because they know you'll pay. Enter Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. Mint Mobile saves on retail locations and overhead, then passes those savings directly onto you. Tim got this for his mom. She's been able to use it. She's been able to have a great experience with it. Tim says it's great and way cheaper. Mint Mobile makes it easy to cut your wireless bill down by just $15 a month. Every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text. With Mint Mobile, stop paying for unlimited data you'll never use. Choose between plans with 3, 8, or 12 gigabytes of 4G LTE data. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditch your old wireless bill and start saving with Mint Mobile. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get a plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/kinda. That's mintmobile.com/kinda. Cut your wireless bill down to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/kinda.
Damn. All right.
You doing it? You're going to do it? You thinking about it?
Sounds nice.
As you know, Chris, on this show, we have something called the Friend Zone.
Yeah.
Where everybody, the Kinda Funny best friends, can go to patreon.com/kindafunny. Leave you questions. Today, Mitch's question is simple. For Chris, what is the most bizarre request you've ever received from a fan? Bizarre. I said bizarre. I don't know what that's about. Bizarre. You know what I mean?
Request.
Because you go and you do the booths, you do the artist alleys, you sit around.
Yeah. They're honestly not that weird.
It's never like, hey, how about this guy has sex with this guy? Where is this?
Is that weird anymore?
Well, but I meant weird combinations.
Oh, someone's like, we're in a post Game of Thrones world. Like
true.
everything, like it's all fine now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have any. My fans are boring. My friends are like, can I just see Thor's dick? And I'm like, yeah, all right.
You're like, yeah, here it is.
Here it is.
Here's the
Done.
hammer.
Here you go.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, no,
I appreciate that you do that.
Yeah, I don't
when
like
you
it.
do the weird stuff like that and show Thor's dick, does Marvel ever go like, hey, man, fucking don't show Thor's dick so much, please?
I had a little bit, not really, but there was a bit of a, like, at the beginning, it's like, we're owned by Disney now, so, like, there is kind of a weird morality clause about it, like, it's Disney. It is for kids. Although the only one I was given a strict, you can't do it with, was Peter Parker.
Huh.
And it was because everyone's like, Peter Parker of any Marvel character is meant for kids.
Sure.
So sexualizing Peter is something that's, like, we prefer not to. But other than that, they're like,
Like, he's married, though, you know? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck knows anymore. he's with MJ again already. It's
thank God.
Like, weren't we just here? Like, wasn't this? I mean, I like it. I mean, I like him and MJ together.
Yeah, hell yeah. I didn't like that Brand New Day stuff. I was like, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But then again, I was the problem I talk about where I was like, don't do this. I'm like, I'm not reading current Spider-Man books.
Yeah.
You know, I can't sit here and like bitch about it if you're doing
Well,
it.
that's always part of the growing pains of comics. Everyone's like, oh, my character doesn't exist. I'm like, because I remember, like, you know, I'm a big Emma Frost fan, and there was like a period where Emma Frost didn't appear in any of the books. I'm like, oh, well, Emma's like, we had like 15 good fucking years with Emma Frost. Like, I still have that, and you know, every character, whenever Emma comes in, I'm like, Jean Grey fans, they've been fucked for like the last 15 years. Like, she's just been dead.
Yeah. Well, thankfully the movies have been alien.
Oh yeah, fucking fantastic. I mean, Sophie did a good job, I thought.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I didn't say the movies are good.
Yeah.
I just like Sophie in them.
Oh,
I thought she
okay,
did a good job.
Yeah, whatever you need to say, whatever. It's cool.
Oh, no, they're all terrible.
Yeah, it's not like Disney's in your ear right now, huh?
No, I'm free. I'm free.
Oh, so that was a Fox thing. Well, I guess now it's all the same, so
Yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah, no,
You got to protect your future, though. You know you're going back one day. You're going to do something with them.
I'm free now.
Oh, yeah, the Black Cat.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the weird going, but something weird. No, I don't think I've ever got anything that weird.
Kayla wrote in, and actually from the Comic Book Club, which we're about to record in a second. But she said, for Chris, not so much a question, just wanted to gush that I haven't forgotten your artwork you posted on Twitter of a really buff Jason Todd. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, Jason Todd fans are
Thirsty.
they're a thirsty bunch.
Yeah.
There's a few, and like, well, I think it's like every drawing of Jason I've ever done has to be something thirsty. Like I don't know if it's because of the character or just because of the fans. It's always something thirsty. You can't just do a boring Jason. No one wants it.
This is you, right?
Yeah.
I'm throwing this over to Kevin.
There's a few.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's a few. I just want to make sure I'm sending the right ones. Kevin, I'm slacking to ask.
There's a good one we can go with.
This is Jason Todd, Kris Anka. The results.
Go back up. I think we're. It's the third one, but there's more to that third one. Yeah, there's more to it.
Because this is taking me to the Pinterest.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, someone cropped it. There's no crotch in that shot.
We got a good crotch shot, and if I go through all the way.
I mean, it's safe for work, but there's like the.
Yeah, you're right. They cropped it bad. They cropped it bad.
Yeah.
You know, you.
It's like him and Dick Grayson. Like, they're just made for it.
Oh man, Dick Grayson's ass, right?
Fucking Dick Grayson, everything.
Kevin, I'm throwing it to assets right now.
It's weird. It's funny that like Dick Grayson is so known for an ass, even though like it was so not intentional.
Yeah.
He just somehow just over time just developed the greatest ass in comics.
I mean, he's an actor.
Everyone knew. Everyone.
You know what I mean?
Everyone. Oh, sure. I mean.
So this is the one that's cropped.
Yeah.
Or when you click open,
yeah.
does it do any more? No. I don't know how to use Pinterest.
No, look, this is some fan cropped it already.
Lame. God, you fans are the worst, you know? Kris Anka, Jason Todd. All right, hold on. Kevin's doing some stuff. Kevin's doing what I call black magic. Okay. We're all waiting. Don't worry about it. Keep talking. I know. The talking is us waiting, you know?
It's riveting.
This is what people want. Well, you know what? I can only give you what I can give you.
Kevin's having a lot of problems with Pinterest. Just
of course,
things
I go to your Twitter and I'm like, maybe you'll have it up here.
Oh,
Instead, you have all these weird
it'll be buried.
Who are these weird dinosaur people you have? Is this? Oh, this is Pikachu.
It's Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's not one of the popular ones, you know. I know
Totodile.
a Porygon. I know Pikachu.
The massively popular Porygon. No, because like a lot of Dick Graysons are popping up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Whatever. You draw a hot Jason Todd. We got it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
You want me to show this though?
Oh yeah, totally. Show some people. Yeah, see, look at that.
Yeah.
It's hot. He's pulling his pants down a little too. Showing that thrust bucket.
Show the Dick Grayson. It's the furthest left on the third row.
Oh yeah, where he's pulling his shirt up with his teeth.
Yeah, that's the one evidently.
That's the one. Yeah, that's it. Jason. Yeah. Okay. Get out of the way, Jason. Here comes Dick Grayson. You know what I mean?
Dick Grayson was the first one.
Yeah. Jeez Louise. You know what I'm saying over there?
Dick Grayson chose those booty shorts. Jason just had to wear them.
It's true.
Yeah.
Batman's like, what do you want your outfit to look like? He's like, can I just wear tidy whities but make them green? Batman's like, I guess. I guess that's cool.
You don't want Kevlar? She's like, nah.
He's like, I want to honor my dead parents.
Dodge the bullets.
Showing my bulge all the time.
And Jason's just forced to wear them.
Jay's like, I'd love to change the outfit. Batman's like, no, under no circumstance. Sorry, we have to honor Dick Grayson. Oh, Kris.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming by and just talking comics.
Yeah, of course.
Question for you, I guess. My final question for you.
What's up?
Do you draw your own tattoos? Is that a faux pas as an artist? Would you be like, would people be like,
They're
you know?
here and there. There's some things that like it's like the Teddy Roosevelt face I did because the likeness is so specific.
Yeah.
Teddy's that one. But like the spiral here, even the florals, I did like these are the shapes I want. This is sort of the pattern, but have fun with it because this is another artist. I don't want to completely dictate what they do.
Yeah.
And different artists are here and there about what they offer. Some people who just do really specific things for you, or some artists are like, I do what I do.
Yeah.
You come to me because you want
my stuff. Yeah,
so it's everyone's a little bit different. So like the small ones, like I'll kind of I want a little bit of a hand in it because I'm really particular.
Yeah.
But I don't want to completely cut them out of the equation. So that's why you do consultations and you talk to. But there's usually like a very specific element that I have to like make sure I nail, especially if it's a likeness or a
something specific.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that is good. But I usually, if that is the case, I like to give the rest of it something that they can have fun with.
Okay.
So yeah.
Kris, thanks for being a best friend.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for being so dedicated. Coming up here all the time. Where can people keep up with you?
Twitter and Instagram at Christopher Anka. Also a Patreon, patreon.com/Kris Anka, I believe.
Can I get smut there?
Yes, $10 a month.
Perfect. See, there you go.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for guys and gals. Whatever you're into, I got it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're there.
I'm not here to lose a market. I'll get all the markets. Whatever you're into.
All right, great. Like I said earlier in the show, remember, we're about to do Greg's comic book club with one Kris Anka. You can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Probably it'll be up by the end of the afternoon. But if not, it'll be up first thing tomorrow morning, so you can get it there. Patreon.com/kindoffunny. You give us $1, you get a brand new show. We're talking the Immortal Hulk Volume 1, along with a whole bunch of different stuff. Until then, and until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.